Welcome back to Landing Zone Home. Today's video is the next in a series for new RV and Airstream owners. Today we're going to be talking about preparing your unit to go into storage and some very important considerations you need to make before you put your unit in storage. Before storing your unit, the first thing I want you to do is take all of the food out. Food is going to do two things. It's going to attract mice, rats, it's going to attract ants, different kind of bugs, and it's probably going to spoil, or it's not going to be as fresh as it should be when you get around to preparing that food. So take it all out. To discourage rodents from getting into your unit, I use the fabric softener dryer sheets, and you have these probably, and I just take those, the unused ones, place them around in the storage compartments and some of the lower drawers. I'll put them in there, and for some reason it's a fragrance that the rodents don't like and they'll stay away from it, and it's been working pretty good for me over the years. Inside, you will want to open the refrigerator doors, open the doors to your closets, cabinets, cupboards, and what this will do is it will promote some air circulation. And what air circulation does is it prevents mold and mildew. And I'll go a little more in depth on that in just a minute. If you're not using a dehumidifier, you may want to go ahead and open up your vent, not necessarily cut the vent on, but just open the cover on it so you'll have some circulation of air coming in. Remove any high value items you may have, like cameras, hiking equipment. Maybe if you have an air compressor in your storage compartment, you might want to go ahead and take that out. Go ahead and lock up all of your storage compartments. Get them nice and secure. And that takes me into the next subject, which is security. On a previous video, I talked about how to secure your RV when you're not there, and we talked about things such as this hitch coupler lock, which is... Travel trailers especially are vulnerable to theft, since it's so easy to just hook the chains to a tow vehicle and drag the unit off real quick. I think the number one security consideration for storing your RV is determining where you're going to store it. And my first option would always be store it at home if you possibly can. Especially if you have space to do that and there's no homeowners association or other local ordinance that would prevent storing your unit at home. I think that would be the safest route to go. But if you must use a commercial facility, I would always opt for covering the unit, either storing it inside or under some sort of cover. That is going to provide an immense amount of protection against the elements for your unit. The rain and sun especially, the UV damage that can be caused to the seals and to the caulking throughout the outer portion of your RV can be easily damaged in just one season by leaving it out in the sun. But if you do not have covered storage, you might want to consider using a cloth or material covering to go over your unit. That will provide some protection, but you need to be very careful to ensure it does not damage the finish of your unit. And for Airstreams, these types of cloth or material coverings are not recommended because it will scratch and otherwise damage the outer skin of your Airstream. If you are using a commercial storage facility, make sure you have an agreement. You understand what that facility will be providing in terms of security and safety and access for you to come in and out of the facility to check on your unit, or maybe when you're getting ready to bring it out of storage, you want to have access to get in and do that. Regardless of where you store the unit, make sure you check on the unit frequently to ensure that there's no damage and that the agreements of the storage facility are being followed. The first thing that tends to get people in trouble when it comes to storing a unit is the batteries. Batteries are intended to be kept charged. And if you put your batteries in storage, over time they're going to drain down. Even if you use a battery disconnect switch, there will still be some small drain on your batteries, and over time it will drain them down. So I recommend storage that has at least a 110 volt outlet that you can plug into, and that will keep the converter running, and the converter will keep the batteries fully charged. If you have a battery disconnect switch, something like this, that is only intended for short periods of storage. What that does is it disconnects the battery from the RV, but it doesn't do anything to keep the batteries charged. So if you're going to leave your RV somewhere for just a short period of time of something less than a week or maybe just a few days, it's okay to go ahead and disconnect the battery. But if it's anything more than a few days, don't use this switch. Go ahead and get your batteries plugged in and get them to charging. If you cannot plug your RV in to keep the batteries charged, I strongly recommend to go ahead and disconnect the batteries and take them home. Put them in your garage or somewhere like that, and then get a battery charger, something like this NoCo charger, which is a multi-stage smart charger, and put them on that. Multi-stage means that it's not going to overcharge your batteries, and you can leave them on the charge for an indefinite period of time. Then the next season when you're ready to go out, your batteries will be fully charged and will be in good shape. I'll put a link down below in the comments where you can check out these battery chargers. Shut off your LP tanks. It won't take but just a moment to go ahead and shut your tanks off, and what that's going to do is provide some basic safety. If you had a leak, you wouldn't want to start a fire or worst case an explosion because you forgot to turn off your LP tank. So go ahead and turn them off. It won't take just a minute. Behind security, the next most important consideration is moisture in your RV. Controlling the humidity is very important. You can do this in a couple of different ways. One is maximum air circulation throughout the RV, but in cases where humidity is high, you may need to have a dehumidifier such as this one right here. This is a 13-pint dehumidifier that I run in my RV all the time except for when we're on the road. But the good thing about it is it not only pulls out the humidity in the summertime, but in the winter, if you keep it running while you are camping, it'll remove all the moisture from the windows. Have you ever woke up in the mornings and looked at your windows and they're just dripping with water? A small dehumidifier like this will probably take care of most of that water. So this is just one more reason why it's good to have electricity at your storage site, so that if you do need to run a dehumidifier, a 110 plug-in will be sufficient for this. An example of how much water a dehumidifier can remove from your unit. This is July in North Florida, and for a 24-hour period, this is the amount of water that was removed from my unit. Seems like quite a lot. So if you're going to put your unit in long-term storage with a dehumidifier, you want to get a unit that has a drain hose on it where you can route it out of the RV or even into your holding tanks, where you don't have to go through emptying your tray every few days like this. There are products like this Damp Rid or Damp Check, which are very good for small areas like a bathroom or maybe under a countertop or something like that. We've tried this years ago and it really didn't work. On a larger area, it just isn't sufficient to keep the moisture down. And in one case, we left our RV, we had a fifth wheel at the time. We left it for about 2-month period and came back, and the entire inside of the RV had a fine coating of mold or mildew on everything in there. Damp Rid did not do the job for that. I wish in hindsight we'd had a dehumidifier going, and that would have taken care of the job perfectly. And lastly, I want to talk about tires and considerations for your tires when putting your unit in storage. The absolute worst thing you can do is park your unit on dirt or on grass. This is going to allow moisture to seep into the tires, and over time it can start to debond the tires and be very damaging. A gravel surface is much better than dirt or grass, but even better than gravel would be hardtop such as concrete or asphalt. I prefer concrete. Concrete is going to minimize any moisture transfer from the surface to your tires, providing that the concrete is properly drained and there's no standing water. Well, there you have it. Those are my top concerns for placing your RV in storage. Remember to go back and check your unit from time to time to ensure there's no water damage, no one's been tampering with your storage or your hitch or anything like that, and also to ensure that the commercial facility that you've chosen is following by the guidelines that you signed off on. Well, let's leave it there, and if you enjoyed this video, if you think you might have learned something, please go ahead and click that like button. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and subscribe to my channel so you get the future videos coming out in the series. And until next time, thanks for watching.